friends, welcome back to the channel, or if it's your first time here, welcome to my channel. My name is Grace. I'm a 26-year-old mama to my daughter Ivy, who is a week shy of being 2, and my son Calvin, who is 5 months old. So this is Ivy. She is going to be 2 years old next week. Can you show them how old? 2? Can you hold up 2 fingers? 1, 2, that's 3. You're going to be 2. 2 years old. And this is Calvin. He is 5 months old. Right now he'll be 6 months in about 2 weeks. They're about 18 and a half months apart. Right? Yeah, that's right. I make motherhood and lifestyle content here on YouTube, and today I am coming at you with my 2 under 2 survival guide. I'm going to be sharing with you kind of my experience with having kids 2 under 2, and share with you some of the best tips and advice I've gathered along the way to hopefully support you if you are in this like 2 under 2 journey, or just give you some more information if you're kind of just curious about it. A lot of these tips can also kind of translate into just transitioning from 1 to 2 kids in general. It doesn't have to be 2 under 2. So I hope you find some useful information in here. I want to start off with just kind of sharing my experience. If you have been around on my channel for a while, you'll know some of this already. But I found out I was pregnant with Calvin when Ivy was 10 months old, and I was freaking out. It was never my plan to have 2 under 2. I knew that I wanted to have multiple children, but I planned on having at least like a 2 or 3 year age gap. But surprise, Calvin came along. When Davis found out, we were really, really nervous and scared. And I remember thinking, like, I know that I will do this. Like, I'm pregnant, this is something that's going to happen, but I don't know how I'm going to do this. But fast forward a few months, almost a year actually over a year since I found out I was pregnant with him. And I am loving having 2 under 2. I feel like I really hit my stride in motherhood. I enjoy being with them so much. They're so sweet, so cute. I think I'm like at my happiest stage of being a parent that I have been, which like was a big surprise to me. I definitely had kind of a hard go around transitioning from 0 to 1, so I was really worried that transitioning to 1 to 2 would be like even harder, but honestly it wasn't for me. Everyone's experience is a little bit different, but for us, we were kind of already in that parent mode, and we're kind of used to spending most of our time taking care of a little one, not having as much time for yourselves, and also just we had done it before, we knew a lot more what to expect with everything. I mean, with pregnancy and birth and having a newborn, having a baby, we just definitely felt a lot more confident this time around. And that's not to say we haven't had challenges. We certainly have. It is not easy having 2 under 2. It's not for the faint of heart. But if I can do it, you can do it. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into some of the tips and advice that I have. These aren't really in any particular order. I kind of tried to group them by like theme, but it's a little all over the place. The first tip that I have is, this would be before your second child is born, is to prep your older child before the baby arrives by reading books, talking about the baby, etc. This is kind of tough if you do have 2 under 2, because really like your first child is still kind of a baby while you're pregnant, depending on when that falls. But I still think there's ways that you can like get the idea across, even to a really little one, that mommy's pregnant, there's going to be another baby in the family. We read a lot of books about it, about becoming a big sister, about having a baby in the family. She has a little baby doll that we would like to play with and kind of pretend that it was, new baby. And we would just talk a lot about what it would be like. We watched the Daniel Tiger episode where, he has a new baby in the family. And we tried our best to prep her. I mean, nothing can like fully prepare your child, especially like a really little one, for what's gonna happen when they get a new sibling, but I feel like it did help. And then when the baby came and certain things would happen, we could kind of like reference back to, you know, part of a book about like how baby cries sometimes, but they're okay. If you have like a close friend or family that has like a small newborn baby, or even just a younger baby, that can also be helpful to kind of get them together to just kind of like see what it's like being with a little baby. My next tip is kind of for after the baby arrives, like in that very first newborn stage, and that's to ask for and accept all of the help you can, especially with pouring love into your older child. I know I definitely worried about how I was going to split my time and like split my love between them, my attention. I'll share with you something that my therapist told me, and I thought it was really smart. Your time and your attention is finite. There's only, you know, so much that can go around, but love is not. Love can grow, and as long as both your children know that they are deeply loved and safe and cared for, everything's gonna be okay. That kind of helped me get through some moments. But there's definitely still this sense of like worrying about your older child because you just can't give them the same time and attention that you did when it was just them, obviously, when you have another baby in the family. So I found it really helpful to have people come over, you know, her grandparents, you know, aunts and uncles, and just really spend a lot of time with her and make her feel super special. And not in a way that they're like taking her away from us necessarily, because you don't want your child to feel like the baby's like replacing them, but just to give them like all that love and to make them feel really special during this time too, because it's a really, you know, big transition for them, obviously. And also just like help in general with groceries, getting food, cleaning the house, laundry, like whatever, accept all the help, because it is kind of a lot in the beginning for sure. My next piece of advice was actually given to me by my aunt when I was pregnant with Calvin, and I thought it was just really smart, and I have done it quite a few times. So she told me when both kids are crying at the same time, because inevitably it will happen now and then, help the older kid first, because they're the one that's going to remember. The newborn baby, they're not going to remember it. You know, if they have to cry a little bit longer, they will be okay. It's hard, of course, to let your baby cry, but they'll be all right. Your older child, your toddler, is the one that is really going to be more deeply affected by that. Like if you're always tending to the baby first. I've done that in a few times when it's just like hectic and both kids are like upset and they need me. Put the baby in a safe place where you know they'll be okay, tend to the toddler, make them feel all right, and then go back to the baby as soon as you can. Another tip that I have is to not blame the baby, for not being able to do things with your toddler, because that's really hard for them. Things like, oh, I can't play with you right now, I have to feed the baby, or like, we can't go to the park right now, the baby's napping, whatever it might be. Instead, just kind of change your language on it. I got this idea from Big Little Feelings. They're on Instagram, they're great. Yeah, they say to change your language on it. So instead of blaming the baby, you know, I would love to play with you, I need 5 minutes, and then we can play. What game do you want to do? Or we can't go to the park right now, but we can go in an hour. And just kind of shifting your language so you're not blaming the baby, because then if you are, your older kid might kind of be like, well, ever since this baby came into the world, I can't play with mom, I can't go to the park, life sucks, baby sucks. You do not want that. You want to like foster that positive relationship as much as possible between the two of them. Okay, my next tip is really like to help you as a parent more than anything, and that's to try and get both kids down for a nap at the same time at least once a day. Most likely your toddler will probably be taking 1 nap a day at this point. And in the beginning this is pretty easy because newborns nap all the time. It's a little bit trickier as they get older and start dropping naps, but that really will give you as a parent the time you need to just like chill. And I know a lot of people during nap time, they're like, oh my gosh, I gotta like clean the house and cook and like do all the things. No, not me. I relax as much as possible, and then I try to do those other things while the kids are awake. That would be another tip for you about just parenting in general, which if you want that, I actually have a video, 10 things I wish I knew about being a parent, something along those lines. I'll link it up here for you if you want just more like general parenting stuff. But yeah, definitely recommend getting the kids down for a nap at the same time if possible. We are starting to get to a point now where Calvin's starting to be ready for just 2 naps, and they're kind of like at exactly not Ivy's nap time, and I'm pretty bummed about it because like, oh, that was the mommy time, but it's fine, we'll make it work. In the beginning though, that's super helpful. And something that kind of helps you schedule that whole thing is to be following wake windows for your baby and your toddler. And I know not everyone likes to have like a schedule or like a strict routine, and I totally get that. For me, I find it empowering to have sort of a routine because I know what to expect, and so do the kids, and I know that there's like a time that I can relax during the day, but having that is really helpful in getting them down for a nap at the same time. And if you want more info about like wake windows, that type of thing, I would definitely recommend checking out Taking Care of Babies on Instagram or the blog. They have a ton of free information that's like super helpful about that stuff. Okay, my next tip is one that I got from my therapist also. Dedicate 15 minutes of special one-on-one time with your toddler every day. So this doesn't have to be like a big thing. This can be as simple as like sitting down together while the baby's napping and having a snack together and just talking, or sitting down and playing your toddler's favorite game, playing make-believe with them. Just that like one-on-one, really intentional time where you're not distracted by anything else, to just like fill up their little love cups as much as you possibly can, because with 2 under 2, you are busy, you are like running back and forth between a million things. So having that intentional one-on-one time is just so special, and I find that it really helps reduce the amount of like tantrums and like guilt that you can feel. So I definitely recommend doing that. And also with the baby too, having one-on-one time with them when your older kid is napping, or even like when you're just feeding the baby, you know, like looking into their eyes, talking to them, singing to them, can be really sweet and, you know, help you make that bond. Because one thing is you don't have as much one-on-one time with your new baby as you did with your first child, obviously. But that can be tough, you know, because you want to give them the same amount of attention and love you gave your firstborn, but it's not possible. I remember hearing something once that something along the lines of like, yes, your first child got more one-on-one time with you, but your second child will get the benefits of having a sibling for their entire life and all of the like love and attention and fun that brings. So it kind of balances out, you know? And I think also it's really sweet to just schedule occasional dates with your older child to do something special. And this, like, I'm not saying right in the beginning after the baby is born, but maybe after a couple months when you feel like you can get out of the house for a little bit longer at a time. Personally, I like to take Ivy to Starbucks and I get her like a little vanilla milk or a steamer and a cake pop, and we just sit and we talk and she listens to the music and dances, and it's fun. Or, you know, going to the park or going to the library and like reading stories together. I think those can be really sweet and special and just help you like still have those special memories just with your toddler. Okay, my next tip is more of a practical one. Have a safe spot to put your baby in every room. So that could be like a bouncer, a swing, a play mat. It could be as simple as just like a folded up quilt somewhere with like a couple of toys here and there. But it's just really nice to have a spot you can put your baby, you know, because when you need to do something for the toddler or you need to do something to just like keep life running. I tried to have one in every room, or like the rooms that we were most frequently in the beginning, just to make life easier. Kind of along the same lines of that, Make changing stations and baskets in multiple rooms, the ones you're in most often. So I have one in the living room here and one in the playroom. And this is not really something I did like with my first baby. We would just take her to the nursery to change her diaper. But now, like, sometimes it's just a lot easier to stay where you're at and not have to like get up and leave to change the baby's diaper, you know, change their outfit, whatever. So we have like little stations kind of throughout the house, which is helpful. My next tip is to involve the older child, involve your toddler in taking care of the baby, but don't force it. I feel like toddlers are just naturally very helpful little people, and they really are curious and interested in things. So for my kid at least, Ivy really likes to help out with things. She liked to help change his diaper. She liked to help, but she liked to help swaddle him and unswaddle him. Now she gives him binkies. She brings him toys. It's super sweet. But it's never something that like I expected her to do or I made her do. You don't want to make your older child feel like it's their responsibility to take care of the baby. I think involve them as much as they want to be involved, but don't push it. And I will also add, it really depends on the kid. Not all toddlers are going to be like super affectionate and hands-on with the new baby. Ivy's not really. She likes him. She likes him being around, but she likes her own space and she doesn't really want him in it. But she does really like helping take care of him with things. So I think just like kind of follow your kid's lead on that. My next tip is to have a basket of toys for your toddler that come out just at feeding time. And this can be really like just kind of whatever, but the whole point of it is that they're things that are like not out all the time. They're going to be interesting enough to keep your toddler busy while you're feeding the baby. I think that's one of the things I was like most stressed out about. I'm like, how am I going to feed the baby? Like what's Ivy gonna do? You know, she definitely plays independently sometimes, but you can't count on that all the time, especially like with a newborn. You have to feed them so often. And I also didn't want to be doing like screen time every time we were feeding the baby. Definitely did it sometimes, but it just, I feel like that could just form a bad habit. So I just got a little basket and filled it with different toys and different playthings. And whenever I sat down to feed the baby, we would get out the basket of toys, and it was this fun, special thing. And I think my favorite thing to put in there were our Lovevery playthings. If you guys have been around, you know that I'm obsessed with Lovevery. We have been subscribed to them since Ivy was a little baby, and now I actually partner with them and I'm working with them on this video, so I want to tell you a little bit about them. So Lovevery, if you didn't know, they curate these play kits that are tailored to your child's age and like development. They're Montessori style toys, so they're very high quality, heirloom quality. It really encourages open-ended play, which is so awesome for getting your child to play independently and just keeping them interested in something for an extended amount of time. These are definitely our favorite toys, and I would always make sure to have a few things from Ivy's current play kit in those feeding baskets when I would bring them out while I was feeding the baby, and they would keep her busy for a long time. And the play kits, they're, like I said, tailored to your child's age, for birth up to I think 4 years old. So there's, with the baby boxes, they come every 2 months, and then for toddlers they come every 3 months. They have really awesome, fun, high quality toys, and they have like little play guides that give you information on like how to use these things to help your kids' development, which I love. I feel like it takes kind of the guesswork out of buying things for your kid. I really also like Lovevery's play kit for newborns. We got that one right before Calvin was born, and it has a lot of like really cool high contrast images and sensory things for little babies, and I like to kind of set those up at the different stations I have for him in each room. It kind of like reduces my mom guilt a little bit, like if he's at a station while I'm like busy doing something else or taking care of Ivy, I know that he has something fun and engaging to play with. I mean, like a newborn doesn't play like in a typical way, but to interact with. And they're also just great things to like encourage his development. They're fun to play with together, or just to let the baby have a little bit independent time. So I would definitely also check those out if you're looking for some things for your newborn to do, or some little activities for your baby stations, whatever it might be. And yeah, if you want to check out Lovevery for yourself, I will leave a link in the description box. You can follow to check out the play kits and the other fun playthings that they have. We absolutely love them and would highly recommend. My next tip, or really like advice, is just to let your older child still be little. I think sometimes when you're looking at your kids side by side, you see the older one is so much bigger and they can do so many more things, and you just naturally kind of expect more of them. But you have to remember, they're still a toddler, they're still little. I mean, really, depending on the age, they could still be a baby themselves. And they still need a lot of time, a lot of attention. It can be easy to like get frustrated with your toddler when they're being like really needy, and like you need to take care of the newborn who like literally needs everything from you, can't do anything from themselves. Sorry, I don't know why I'm holding a toy. But just remember that your toddler is still little too, and they still need you in a lot of ways. So just try to have patience with them. Remember that they're still learning too. You're all kind of like learning how to be a family together, really. My next tip is to do kind of short test runs of solo parenting with both kids, and like leaving the house by yourself with both kids early on. If your partner has some time off when the baby arrives, that's like the best time to do it, I think. I was so nervous about when Davis was going to go back to work. I was like, how am I going to do this by myself with both kids? There's two of them and there's one of me. So I found it helpful, even though it was really intimidating. We both actually did this. Like, one of us would go out on like a quick outing, like to the grocery store or like to a coffee shop or something, and the other one would kind of have some practice just taking care of the kids by themselves. I have a story for you. The first time Davis like left me alone with both kids in the evening, I had to put them both to bed, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be fine, like Calvin's chill, it's fine. He came home to just both kids absolutely screaming. Calvin, oh my gosh, it was such a mess. Like, I was trying to put Ivy down, like trying to read her story, and Calvin is just freaking out and just screaming. That's how it went the first time for me, and I was like, oh my god, how am I gonna do this? But I swear to you, it does get easier. It's still a lot of work, of course, to take care of both kids on your own, but it does get easier, and having those little test runs really like helps build your confidence up for when, you know, your partner does go back to work, or, you know, when family leaves or whatever it might be. I'm really fortunate that Davis works from home, so he can still help out a little bit throughout the day, which is nice, but he does go to the office occasionally too, so those are the days when I really get my like solo parenting in. And the same goes for leaving the house. That is intimidating in and of itself, but practice with small little things and you will get the hang of it. And just being able to like confidently leave the house with both kids is a really good feeling. All right, and then my next tip kind of goes along with leaving the house, and that is embrace baby wearing and double strollers. They are so helpful. We have a couple different carriers. My favorite for like the newborn phase is definitely the Solly Baby Wrap. Love it, so comfy. It's great if you need to just like have a little contact nap. That's definitely what I go for. Or if you're going out on a walk, you could go for like a structured carrier. Or I also have a ring sling, which is nice like if I'm cooking dinner and I just need to like stick a kid in there. We also have a double stroller. We got a single to double stroller with Ivy, and then we could just convert it to the double for Calvin. So that's really nice to go out on walks or to go like to stores sometimes. That can be helpful. My next tip is to take shifts with your partner in the beginning during the night if you can, so that you can both get some consolidated sleep. Those first few weeks, months of newborn sleep can be really rough and just so exhausting. So If you can, I definitely recommend kind of taking like shifts with your partner of like who's soothing the baby throughout the night. If you're exclusively breastfeeding, that could be a little harder because you're probably getting up each time to feed the baby, but your partner could be soothing the baby in between that. Or if you want to, you can always like pump a bottle and then have your partner feed that to them. Or we combo fed with both breast milk and formula, so that made it easy for David to take a shift or two in the night so that we could both get some consolidated sleep, because that's so important. And I say just do what you gotta do, okay? So if you need to sleep in a different room when your partner is like on their shift so you can actually sleep, do it. Or use earplugs when it's not your turn, like whatever you gotta do, because that is just gonna keep you a much happier, more sane person if you can get a little bit of rest. And also naps. Take naps if you can. I was never ever someone who could nap before having kids, but I feel like now, like at any given moment, I could sleep for like 4 hours. Yeah. My next tip is to have grace with yourself. Just kind of with everything. Likely the house will be messy, there will be dishes, you guys might be eating out more, you might have more screen time during the day for your kids. It'll all be okay. Those things are just bound to happen when you're in the middle of a transition, especially when you have two tiny people relying on you so much. Alright, Calvin is joining us for the rest of the video. And I'd say kind of to go along with that, lower your expectations of what you can accomplish in a day. For kids, I used to be able to have like a huge long to-do list and be able to get it done all in one day, and it was great. Definitely can't do that now. With Ivy, I would try to have like a top 3, like 3 things that I wanted to accomplish during the day. And that was helpful, and I still sometimes do that, or sometimes I just have one thing that I want to accomplish during the day, and that's okay. Like, I think at the end of the day, like, yes, the house might be a mess, there might not be a home-cooked meal, the kids might have watched a little too much screen time, but as long as you have taken care of your babies and they are safe and healthy and loved and fed, that's what's most important. And there's some days where that's going to be all you can do. That's okay. My next tip is to try and get out of the house even when it's hard. A little hack for this, I think, can be packing the diaper bag the night before. Like if you're trying to get out in the morning, that can be rough. But if you pack the diaper bag the night before, then you just have one less thing to worry about, and it can be easier to get out of the house in the morning. And I just think like getting out of the house, it's just like good for everyone's mental health. It's just like a little reset. And it doesn't have to be anything big. It can be going on a little walk. It can even be just playing in the backyard, running to Target to pick up diapers. Or, you know, it could also be play dates or going to the library or going to the park, going on bigger outings. But even though it's hard in the beginning, try to just push yourself a little bit to get out of the house, because like I said, it's good for everybody. It's definitely easier in the like spring, summer, fall when it's not quite as like cold or rainy or snowy, depending on where you live. But still, in whatever capacity you can, try and make it a priority. Okay, the next 2 are kind of more like mental, like self-help things, but be open and honest about how you're feeling with a safe person, whether that be your husband, a friend, a family member, a therapist, whoever it might be. But this is just like a really, I feel like, vulnerable time for moms, like especially postpartum with 2 young babies. Like it's a lot for anybody, and I think it's just really important to be like honest with yourself about how you're doing emotionally. I know when I had my first baby, I struggled a lot with postpartum depression. It was really hard to admit to anyone, like even to myself. So I think just really try to like be aware of how you're doing mentally and be honest with the people around you so that they can help you as much as you can. And I would say don't be afraid to seek help if you feel like you need it. If you feel like you are struggling and you need to talk to a therapist or maybe a doctor and maybe need to look into medication or something like that, it can be really helpful. And my last thing is to prioritize self-care time for yourself, which I realize is very difficult, especially in the beginning with 2 under 2. But it's so important to just get some time for yourself where you are not responsible for anyone else but your own self. I remember hearing once that self-care is anything that makes you feel like you. So when you hear self-care, don't think you need to like be in a bubble bath, a glass of wine and a face mask. Like, yes, all for that, but sometimes it's just like going on a walk by yourself or going to a coffee shop and getting a cup of tea and like journaling for a little bit, or reading a new book, or you know, it can be like simple things. But I think it's really important to just like do things for yourself from time to time, and also to like get out of the house if necessary when doing those things. Because for me at least, when I'm home, even if I'm like in a room by myself and Davis is like, you know, kind of taking care of the kids, giving me a little break, my mom radar is like still up. And if I hear kids crying or fussing or some like big crash, like I can't ignore it, right? I am on it. So I think to like fully take that rest you need, sometimes it's necessary to get out of the house. And that's where, you know, other people really are important in helping you out with those things, in taking care of your kids so you can take care of yourself. But yeah, as the saying goes, you can't pour from an empty cup. So don't forget about you in all the madness, even when you have tiny little people to take care of. And that is it for all of my tips. And I would just leave you with some encouragement. If you're looking at transitioning from 1 to 2 kids, or having 2 under 2, I know it can be intimidating, also really exciting. And I just want to say that you can do it. I believe in you. Yes, it's definitely going to be hard at times. Do as much as you can to help yourself out before the baby comes. Ask for help, and I don't know, just believe in yourself, because it's such a special time. Like, I just look sometimes at my kids and they're so little and they're so cute, and it's such a precious time, and I just don't want to miss out on it. And you know, while I was really scared to have 2 under 2, I'm so grateful that I do now, and I can imagine my life without this little guy. And now I'm realizing like Ivy is turning 2 in less than a week. Like my time with 2 under 2 is almost up, and it's been so sweet, and I really have enjoyed it, and so much more than I thought I would. And you know, they're still little and sweet, but this is just a special time. Now I'll have 2 and under, I suppose, which is awesome. So yeah, I guess if you have any tips, go ahead and leave them in the comments. If you have any questions, you can comment them too, or if you want, you can always DM me on Instagram if you want to talk a little more in depth about something mom life related. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!